And welcome back to the Wicked Wild podcast. Camp Wicked Wild Survivor School is in session. And this week, we need to ask you one simple question do you know where the babysitter is? Because we do. And she's all hopped up on marijuana and Diet Tab. And she's out there making bad decisions in your house. And there's not a thing you can do about it. But don't you worry, because there's a courageous man, an American hero out there setting the record straight and putting an end to this unchecked gentrification in small town suburban USA. And that's what we're here to talk about. We're going back to the well with Halloween, 1978's John Carpenter classic. But before we get into that, let me introduce you to the host tonight. First, we've got Jamie. And just because of all I know, all the backstory I know of you, I think I already know the answer is yes. But tell me about your babysitter days. You know, what you did as a babysitter when you were a teenager.
No, this answer. I did not fucking babysit.
No?
I loathe children. What?
I would think you would have a thriving business.
Ever babysat? Ever?
I feel like you have like a babysitter vibe about you.
Yeah.
But like in
I have
this
a babysitter
center, that sounds creepy. But like, I feel like in this set, like I could see you being a babysitter in a horror movie. Like I could see you being the babysitter in like a remake of Halloween.
Yeah. Well, my sister did it briefly. My cousins when we were little, maybe because like they're a few years younger than me. If that, I don't remember. And I once for a couple of hours as a full grown adult watched my friend, and that.
But I can say with 100% confidence, you did it begrudgingly, complaining the entire time that it was bullshit that you had to do it.
Probably. Yeah. To be fair, though, children, my friends' kids, and maybe I'm too bold a statement, do actually really enjoy me. But that's because I am a child. You know what I'm trying to say? Like you guys all, like a lot of you have similar interests. Like with my interests, kids love to fucking hang out with me because I'm just a giant. Like it's like it's.
Can we get ice cream? Yes, of course we're going to get ice cream.
My friends' kids were here a couple weeks ago, and I showed them my giant Magic Kingdom Lego. I showed that it's just like my video games. You know, it's like.
How did your life-size art doll go over with?
Yeah, I wasn't here at the time. I'm not sure they would have come in the apartment.
My wife and I just had this conversation like maybe a half an hour ago that our 13-year-old daughter. Like she has like children for parents. Like we love going to Disney World and like I love, all stupid childish things. But she chose like anime, like the one thing. It's just like, all right, cool, thanks.
Almost by design, maybe.
Like I love almost I love almost every style of music, but she picked like whatever the bleeps and bloops are in video games. It's like you had to find like the one thing in every genre that I know nothing about. But that's what kids do.
Yeah. Joe's like saying, I can actively see you dissociating from me, and I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
So, are you going to be that dad at Christmas time who goes to the Hot Topic and go, do you have any of them Naruto shirts?
It's like the demon murderer show and like that stuff.
Guy has a chainsaw coming out of his face. Is this right?
Oh, I still have to watch that.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, Chainsaw Man's not bad.
And then we've got Eli up in Pennsylvania, his glorious home state, as a dyed-in-the-wool Yankee Northerner. Loves it so much.
Not even true.
I have a important question for you, Eli. I was reminded several times, to be honest, how much the original The Thing was instrumental in Carpenter. I mean, it's pretty obvious in this movie how much he loves The Thing. Mm-hmm. So what's the movie? I mean, obviously we've got a storied past, a historical account of all of the movies that you already have in pre-production.
That's true.
For your new studio.
What is it? I'm in?
Yeah. What is it that's the movie that is so instrumental to your formative years that you're going to sprinkle into all of your Donkey Kong films?
This answer is going to be a nightmare.
I don't even know. Come on, guy. Honestly, probably this. This for the longest time, it's still like definitely up there, but this was the longest time was one of my favorite horror films. I like the character of Michael, and like the relationship between him and Loomis. Like that's been one of my favorite. It'd be that or Lord of the Rings. So one of those
Oh
two.
boy.
Well, you went with a straight answer, an honest answer, and I applaud you for that. I can't say that I'm angry, but I am disappointed. I mean, you just kind of gave me an answer there. I don't know what the hell that's all about.
Well, I mean, what did you want me to look? What did you say? Antlers? I would rather shut my head in a door.
I was expecting some like Texas Chainsaw remake,
No,
or like
listen,
some nonsense.
Hold on, listen.
I'm very, I think I've been doing this for like 3 or 4 years with you all, and I think finally EI might be maturing here.
Listen,
nice.
hey,
No, don't say that.
Listen, hold on, fella.
Our little boy's all grown up, huh?
I stand by everything I said. That Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, but I never said it was my favorite. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if we went back and listened, you did. But
no, never said that. What was said on that show was
the downside, Eli, is we have a record.
Yeah.
Well, I know, and also on that record, last time Joe and I, he even admitted, I think you and I have more in common than I thought. So,
what was the movie we did last year? Like at the end.
Chainsaw, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, Deathgasm. No, he's
Deathgasm. I do remember, like at the end, like being concerned at like how we were aligned on certain things.
I'm expecting after tonight, you and I might be best friends.
Wait, I don't want to go on a tangent. I just have to say, did you all see it? Deathgasm 2 is happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in production.
Yeah, he got his money.
Yeah.
Didn't the director have some like not some great things going on in his life?
That did happen.
Yeah.
Hollywood is currently in crumbling free fall.
Yeah. I assume like Mel Gibson is starring or something. Hey, we got Kevin Spacey.
Yay! And then that voice you hear that you probably already recognize. He's been on several times. Glad to have him back for Camp Wicked Wild again this year. We've got Joe Charnews up in Chicagoland. How's it going?
Beautiful. Joe? Good. Thank you so much for having me back. Especially now I have like nothing going on in my life, or like no show, no nothing. So pretty much just a nobody. I don't even have a background. Look at you guys.
We got our halos on.
Just a deadbeat.
So, important question for you.
Yeah.
Not only as a father, but as somebody who may have shared in the past your own struggles in high school. But what advice would you give a poor young Laurie Strode who's just struggling to not be awkward and I can't find anybody who's interested because apparently she reads too much? What's your advice to?
I would say don't listen to the angry asshole sitting on the other end of the lunch table who's probably being an asshole to you, because that guy turns out to 46 years later not have a podcast or anything else going on. So just ignore him.
Just move forward.
There's a good chance that, you're going to grow up and really have like a life. And that guy will be sitting in his basement.
Or maybe you'll spend the next 20 years being chased around by a masked maniac, and love is not the thing that you should be focusing on.
Friends. The point is you'll have friends. Like,
exactly. You'll have clear taskables.
That asshole at the other end of the table will move to the suburbs and struggle making friends with the dads in the neighborhood. But you'll at least have that someone.
It's a little too close to home there.
It's me. The guy at the other end of the table is me. I don't know if anyone pieced that together.
And then before we get into the review, as we do each week, we are going to give Eli a moment to give us this week's paranormal updates. And I can't wait because it's not like the entire world is a heaping tire fire in the reality of things. I can't even imagine what paranormal shenanigans are going on. But let me give Eli, pass off to him for a little section we call The Wicked Whispers.
Yeah. I got three stories, or three things that I came across this week. Two of them, as always, frightening. One of them is making me accept the Earth should die. This planet should be over. I think we've been here too long. First thing, NASA announced this week they received a signal back from like 50 million light years away. They don't know where it came from, but it's part of the project where they randomly send signals out in space, see if anybody gets them or can send them back. And we finally got one back. So don't know what that means. All the alien stuff. There's more UFO sightings last couple of weeks. Military reported, so it's got to be great, right?
Was the
We'll
message
figure
back
out.
just first?
They sent the same message back. So whatever that means. Like it was basically like they took our same signal, just sent it back to us.
Did it have a snarky undertone at least, like it was making fun of us?
I think just the fact that they just sent the same. It was like that mockery, like don't copy me, don't copy me. Like because like
Crap
send the
off my
same one
lawn.
back. Yeah, just whatever. So
Do
sent
they
it back.
know like where it came back from, or it went out there?
It went out there farther than what we can record.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, when they measured it, or like how they measured the decay on those signals, it went 50 million light years, came back. So with that, like I said, there's been like 4 new UFO sightings the military released, so that shouldn't be worrisome at all. It's great. What's the worst that's gonna happen? So we got that going on. The other thing that came out this week, there was like a 40% increase in ghost sightings in the last 6 months. No one really knows what that's about, but ghosts, not wanting to be outdone by aliens and AI, decided they want to throw their hat in the ring to bring about the apocalypse. So if you see a ghost, you're not alone. There's 40% more of the population in the world claiming they're seeing them. So
do you believe in ghosts, Elon?
that's a complicated question. Yeah,
It's just a yes or no question. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not
I believe in
complicated at all.
something. I don't know if it's a ghost as we know it.
Huh.
I believe in something.
That's a nothing answer.
So like that. And then there also been a couple videos that's been released last month that is being analyzed because they're finding it really hard to disprove them. So hell, they're that out there now. So now we got another phenomenon that all of a sudden it's like this could be real with aliens that 5 years ago we all thought all this was bullshit. And then now you got Boston Dynamics who's giving AI the ability to print their own exoskeletons that they tongue-in-cheekily made look like T-100s. So, the world's doing great.
Well, and to your images, and we've talked about this in the past, in 2024, do we actually believe anything we see or hear anymore?
I don't know. I don't even know anymore. I don't even know. But I do know with my last story, in the conspiracy TikTok, don't ask me why this became a thing this week. But I was disgusted. They're all talking. There's like polls and stuff, and which made me believe that I don't care if it's aliens, AI, that Megalodon shark they think's out there. I don't care. It just needs to be over at this point because did you guys know they estimate that 4 out of 10 people poop in their shower?
What?
Yes. Found that out this week.
Where does it go?
They push it down the drain.
Ew, stop it.
How's that possible?
4 out of 10 people.
Why do they estimate
godless
that?
search thread did you fall down?
I was just in my normal conspiracy TikTok, just seeing, trying to figure out the real truth.
Well, we know
But,
his interest, Dave. Why do you think this one came up?
No,
where do they take those polls? Like, how do they
I don't know.
determine this?
But when I read it, I was like, this can't be real.
It can't be.
Little clickety clack.
I don't believe it. No.
It is real.
He found the videos.
Eli watched the videos.
It has been a trend. They estimate 4 out of 10 people poop in the shower.
But like, how do they know that? Like, who did they?
I refuse to believe this one.
Yeah, I don't.
Because the one article I was reading, it came about like when it kind of became known that people pee in the shower, people talked about it, save water, pee in the shower. Some people decided to take it one step further and go, have you ever pooped in the shower? And then it became 4 out of 10 people poop in the shower.
I feel like at this time I need to make an official apology to Joe, our guest. Any past discrepancies on my part for questioning any serial behavior you've had.
I take it back.
You're fine. You're fine.
I take back the whole
serial behavior.
Eli's all grown up.
Listen. I don't do it. I just read this article and I was like, let the aliens destroy the earth. Let AI determinators take over.
I don't know. That seemed like a bit of an overreaction that somebody wants to make sure people don't know.
Very defensive about this happening.
As a man of my word, I have never pooped in the shower.
And luckily, we don't have 3 years of recorded evidence that you aren't obsessed with poop. So
I'm not obsessed. I just said that was a defense mechanism.
Yeah. I mean, we are saying 4 out of 10. I mean, there's 4 people here. I mean, there's a chance.
The other 6.
The other 6.
It
Could be.
It's not this
I don't
guy.
believe that statistic though, because I'm gonna believe everybody on this podcast because I find this absolutely believe. If it's got to be 1 out of fucking 10, if that, it's got to be 0.5 out of 10. There's no way.
All I know is for you, and anybody else listening to this, when you go into work tomorrow, look at the 10 people around you. You know, the 4 of them regularly shit in the shower.
It doesn't. First of all, regularly too, or was this like a one-time?
It seems like
now
a
we're
regular
What the
thing.
hell is happening?
4 out of 10 people, Jamie.
I don't understand like how that would work with the
It
pipes
doesn't. It
and
can't, like
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I don't believe this.
I'll just, and I hope my hosts will back me up on this, but I'd just like to make the official statement on behalf of the Wicked Wild podcast and our entire network of content. If you are a shower shit stomper,
Yeah.
please unsubscribe.
Shower shit stomper.
Yeah.
Just unsubscribe. There's nothing here for you. I don't think.
I was telling
That
Mary
could be
about
your
this.
like bluegrass band
Yeah.
name, Eli. Eli and the Shower Shit Stompers.
Hey, I was telling Mary about this, and I was like, "This is gross," and whatever. She was like, "What would you do if we had someone stay in your house and you thought was doing that?" I'm like, "I would kick them out of the house. Like, you can't stay here if you're gonna poop in my shower."
Like, there's not something you can hide. Like, it's
No.
not like there's no way you can 100%
No.
clean that.
No.
Like,
If I go in my bathroom and my shower looks like a muddy field,
Yeah.
okay, we have problems.
I'm a father of 3, and I've given 2-year-olds baths in the
Yeah.
tub. And even if they had tried this shenanigan, it would be unacceptable. We have a long talk at the end.
Yeah.
that is the worst thing about, like, they don't warn you about kids.
They don't
It's
care.
like when they take a bath, like for the first year or two, like it's just a ticking time bomb. 'Cause
Exactly.
It happens and it is the worst.
So what you're saying, you're bathing them against the clock?
Yeah, like maybe we're talking about children. Like maybe it's just, of everyone in the world, 1 and 2-year-olds, like maybe. Like
Maybe. But
they don't shower. They would go in the
That's
tub.
correct.
Yeah. So no, forget it. I take it back. And I'm sorry I even tried to rationalize this
Yeah.
for you, Eli.
You should have done it. I didn't want to either. I was just like, well, this is the end of humanity.
Yeah.
We have flown too close to the sun, and it is time for our wings of wax to melt.
Well, Joe, I'm glad you've come back and for this experience. This is a first. I'm glad you're back for this exact kind of content. But we're going to move on now.
I would love that.
But just realize this stat will stick with you. I thought I was hoping I'd forget it, but it just every once in a while, in my darkest corner, I'm reminded and disgusted at the same time.
Yeah,
I'm not going to remember that this is a thing. I'm going to remember that you believe that it's a thing. Like, I'm not going to be like tomorrow, like 4 out of 10 people crap in the shower. I'm going to think Eli believes that this could be a thing.
Eli tried to sell me the concept.
Yeah.
I saw it on conspiracy TikTok. It must be true.
Hmm.
Well, back to Halloween as quickly as possible. We're going to start off with our on-the-fly synopsis that we do each time. Joe, as our guest, you're going to be the person that I ask a question of that's going to determine which of the 3 of us has to give a quick synopsis. And this week's question is, if Dr. Loomis, say, was unavailable or he was priorly engaged and was unavailable to oversee Michael's treatment, right? So we had to have some other doctor come in. Who of these 3 doctors would you have preferred to see or would you find interesting to see doing Michael's treatment as he dealt with the darkest evil of all time? So here's the 3 I got for you.
Oh, I was going to say, who am I choosing? Okay, yes, please. Sorry.
So Dr. Phil, I mean,
Mhm.
a wise choice, obviously somebody who can sit down and talk with Michael.
Oh man.
Or maybe there's an angle that hasn't been explored and we get Dr. Ruth involved.
Hmm.
Or
Rest in
maybe
peace.
we go full sci-fi and we go Dr. Zoidberg. I think he would have a lot of contributions to Michael.
You son of a bitch.
I gotta go Dr. Ruth because I have this years ago when I first moved to New York. I went out with some friends that I worked with, and we went and saw a friend of one of the women I worked with. Her friend had written a book and was like doing a reading, and then we went out after, and I decided as they were going to the next bar to go home because I was tired against my better judgment. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to head out. And they went out into this bar and spent till like god awful hours in the morning. And the next day I found out that Dr. Ruth and Keith Hernandez were at that bar. And I have regretted, like, apparently they were like hobnobbing with them, and I have regretted it ever since. And now she's passed, and I'll never get that chance again. So I've got to go Dr. Ruth.
So what question have you had, and this isn't even part of the script, obviously, but new information has entered the picture, but what's the one question you had locked and loaded that you would have wanted to ask?
Well, now I would ask her if she's heard anything about this whole crapping in the shower thing.
Yeah, there has to be a Freudian angle in there somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, obviously, our Dr. Ruth contestant is Eli. So tell us about Halloween.
Was not expecting that. Okay. I don't know how I feel about this one, if I'm being honest. But yeah, Halloween. It's tales all the time. You have a child who turns evil, murders his sister, and then 20 years later decides to break out of the mental institution. They have him in to go back to his hometown to continue murdering babysitters. Because that's just what one's does on Halloween. And of course, you have his doctor who is obsessed with him, is trying to go to this town to stop him, as a young Laurie Strode is being stalked by a guy who stands in the only 2 tall bushes in the whole town.
That's the whole thing.
That about sums it up. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So Joe, as our guest, kick us off. Tell us about your first experience with Halloween. Where does it lie? Because obviously all horror fans have a classic that's sort of their touch point, whether it's Texas Chainsaw or anything, but tell us about your experience of this and seeing it in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I would say over the years, I've grown to appreciate this more and more. I think it's interesting because I saw it, when I was a young kid. This came out the year I was born. So I started watching horror probably around the time of like Friday the 13th, like the original, like when those started popping up on HBO. So probably this around the same time. And I always liked it. I've always been like a Michael Myers fan, but I think when you're a kid, I always gravitated towards like the crazier, like Texas Chainsaw and things like that. So like this one is good, but I liked, but I would probably say I gravitated more towards like the kooky Freddy Krueger and stuff like that versus this, which is a little more straight laced. So over the years, and especially now, like, around this time of year, we always watch like a horror movie every Saturday night and on the weekend. So Halloween is always thrown in there. And I want to say like every year I watch it, I appreciate it more and more. And I think now that I'm older, have really grown to love it as like probably like one of my top 5, especially the first one. I mean, the others we'll throw on and I'll watch and we'll do like a random, part 5 or whatever the hell. And those are fun for what they are. But like this one, just classic. And I feel like every time I watch it, I like it more than I did the last time. So yeah, that's kind of that's my take.
Awesome. Eli, what do you think?
This is probably one of my favorite horror movies. Nostalgia wise, Michael's been my favorite slasher. I mean, I love Friday the 13th on it, but Michael's always my favorite. Just the way his design was like very simple, but it was scary. Especially like a lot of the films you see, it's like really dark, and then you see that contrast of that white mask coming out of shadow. And Loomis, I'm a Loomis apologist. Every movie I love Loomis in, and just seeing him get madder or getting more mad with every film.
So intense.
He is. And
more and more unhinged on his side.
I will give Donald Pleasence credit because like John Carpenter is like, he was always a very literary director. A lot of his stories you could tell had like a literary basis. And like, this became like, this one's almost like a Moby Dick kind of. Michael was the white whale, Loomis was Ahab, and he's like going to town, and he's like saying we have to kill it, we have to stop it, and people weren't believing him. But like Donald Pleasence continued that in every sequel, and he just got by like, well, except for 6, I don't count that because he was 900, and like I don't think he knew where he was at while they were filming it. But like 4 and 5, like, and there's times in that movie you're like, I don't know who's crazier, him or Michael. in terms of like what they were doing. So like I always loved that relationship with those two. And it's like it's very simple, and like because of that, it can be very scary, especially the soundtrack. This soundtrack was so good, especially like when there's scenes of him stalking and like they'll play that theme slow and kind of quiet and it starts to get louder. And that's kind of how you know Michael's getting closer to whoever his victim is. I love this movie. I could talk about it all the time.
Awesome. Jamie, what's your experience with Halloween?
I've mentioned this before. It's fucking blasphemy. I don't care. I don't like Halloween. I don't like it. Franchise. I don't get the fucking love for Michael Myers. He's incredibly boring and dull. Children love him now. I don't know what that's about. Like literally love him. Like my friend's daughter has loved him since she was like 5. Like that enough to me is just like, why is he so like, he's not cool. Children love him. Like if he can show up at children birthday parties, he's not menacing or scary in any way, shape or form. I am exaggerating, but I'm really not. I saw this obviously at like a young age. It's a classic. I've been watching horror for a very long time. I don't mean it like that. What I mean is I saw this when I started getting into horror. It has never done a thing for me. I joke around. I'm joking and not joking. I always say how 3 is my favorite. It is, but it's also in a sea of movies that I couldn't give 2 shits about. So like I make the joke that 3 is, but I guess of all these, it really isn't. It's because there's no Michael Myers and it's not Halloween. I'm gonna be the dissented. On this whole thing, I'm just gonna sit here while you guys all love on this movie because it's a classic and everybody loves it. It's the greatest horror movie to ever exist, and I just I think it's poopy. Like it's just shit. I don't get it. I don't get it. And God help us, Dave, when we get to the ratings, because if you're talking about Laurie as a final girl, holy shit. Does she suck?
Sucks.
So
I don't 100% disagree with you.
Just wait till I run down why she. I didn't even make the list because we'll jump ahead for 1 second. She fights Michael for 10 minutes of this movie. We're talking about final girls who go like a whole movie being like the protagonist and fight. We talked about Sidney Prescott. We went back to back with Sidney Prescott, who has to fight this goddamn Ghostface all movie.
And went hands
pretty
with
much.
him.
Mostly, yeah. And then we got Laurie who hides in closets and like does like dumb shit and like just runs around yelling. So we'll talk about it. But anyway, obviously being me and overreact. I've never been a Halloween fan. I don't own one Michael Myers toy. If you open up a blind box and it's Michael Myers, I'm trading with you unless it's like Annabelle or Chucky. Like otherwise, he's not my guy. He never has been. He falls way lower than Jason, Pinhead, like Leatherface. He falls below all of them. I just think he's dull. He's not menacing. He does not scare me. Children love him. They run up to him and hug him, Eli. Hug him. Like, I've seen videos of little kids, of him showing up at kid birthday parties on like Instagram. And kids, I had when the new one came out, I know they suck, but when the new trilogy came out, Fangoria did like a centerfold. That's right. A Michael Myers centerfold. I gave it to my friend's 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and she hung it on her bedroom wall. That's all I have to say.
That's pretty adorable.
I have to say. It's adorable and it's cool. And I was so happy to do it for her. But like,
you also didn't want it anyways.
So not a fan is what I'm piecing together. On the fence, maybe.
Could go either way.
Like, everybody's gonna hate on me for this. I don't care. Halloween has never done it for me.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
I get what you're saying. Like, and it's kind of what I was talking about. Like when I was younger, I definitely
you did it.
Like, like knowing that you gravitate towards like the Terrifier and like that, like it's over the top. Like I don't know what the word is, but this is definitely very slow paced. It's very like and I could 100% see why, it wouldn't be up your alley. I mean, obviously, I think you're being a little over the top with it.
I am, but that's me because like this is going to be a love fest. So I have to balance this out to some degree because yes, the hatred is not even this strong. I don't even care about it enough to hate on it like Eli and I usually do on things. Like I'm not even that passionate about it. It's just, I've heard it before. I get it. He's the boogeyman. He's just scary. He just like I've heard it all before. It's not my scary. Like very luckily, I've never been stalked. I've never been he doesn't do it for me. He's not. And as far as a horror movie or an exciting movie, nothing in this movie is exciting or like tense. It doesn't do any. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this evening, the part of Sith Lord will be played by Jamie Giordano.
I'm done. I'm going to shut up for the rest of the... Call me back
No,
in when I have to tell you why Laurie sucks.
Oh,
You so rarely get an informed counterpoint. I'm going to use that to full effect tonight. Because honestly, I do think, and I'm going to share my thoughts here in a minute. So you may not be as far off by yourself as you think you are. But, I have or had unrealized trauma from this movie as a kid that I didn't even realize until I was a teenager. When I was a kid, and I think we all went through this phase when you're like 5 to 8, you get night terrors, and you can't articulate them. It's just a recurring nightmare that you have that wakes you up and freaks you out, and you have this baggage with. And mine, and it's going to sound stupid, but mine was that there was this bust of Beethoven that was just like hovering over my bed or staring at me, or was staring from under the bed or anything like this. This huge ivory bust of Beethoven was just everywhere. And then when I was a teenager, my mom told me in passing when I was watching this movie, "Oh yeah, you saw that in the theaters." So I am probably the only person on this podcast that saw this movie in theaters. I was 5 years old, and my mom used to go to the drive-in movies with her friends. And she said, "Yeah, I tucked you in the back and we watched the movie." And to all the parents out there, and I know everybody on this podcast has seen this, who are taking your 2 to 5 year olds to the horror movies and saying they don't have any understanding of what's going on. You're probably right, but that doesn't mean you're not putting shit in their brain.
Holy shit, Dave.
Yeah.
But
wait,
when I
was 5 when this came out, or like how I
was 5 when this came
now.
out.
Oh, all right.
I'm an old fart, Joe. But when I pieced together that the Beethoven that had terrified me through my childhood was actually Michael Myers and that stupid white mask he was wearing.
Was William Shatner, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. This movie went to a whole other level for me. But I used to watch this movie every year in October because it is one of those staples. It's one of those. It's freaking Halloween. You throw it on, the beats, and you know what's going on. I still love the movie, and I do enjoy the movie because it is a technical masterpiece. I mean, you could spend hours just dissecting that opening scene this was 1976 and 77 when John Carpenter was doing this, and having a Panavision camera that you're focusing through a plastic mask that you just put in front of a lens and then doing a full scene that way. That's some witchcraft shit that he was pulling off at that time. I mean, so I still have great respect for what Carpenter accomplished with this movie, but it has worn thin for me. Like in this last watching, because it had been a year, maybe 2 years since I'd seen it, because I know the story and there's not a whole lot of story there. I had to discipline myself to pay attention. Like I was easily distracted by my phone and all the other stuff. It's a slow movie. I mean, Joe, you said it, Eli, you agreed. And I knew where Jamie was going to go on that side of it. I didn't know if she liked it or not, but I know she would struggle with there isn't a lot going on. I mean, there's no dialogue. There's nothing that's happening unless you're like locked in on Dr. Loomis and what he's doing. There's really nothing to carry you through this movie. Not even Michael, really. There's just no way around it. But it is a proto slasher, and that's how I kind of articulate why it's the way it is, because there was no background. There was no history of this formula. He was literally making this new kind of pacing movie that was much more attached to something like Jaws than it was something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, it was building on a thing and it was escalating in a very slow, methodical way. And that's what Carpenter does. We learned that later in his other stuff that he did. At the end of the day, Michael is sort of a boring antagonist. I mean, if you cut everything else away, he's just this creep who just shows up at different places. It's really only because of Dr. Loomis that you get any of that fear or gravity around him as a killer. It's only Dr. Loomis's dialogue that tells you literally anything about Michael, because he's talking about how evil he is and that I looked into the face of the devil and that terrible things are going to happen tonight. And
otherwise, he's just a peeping Tom.
He's just a peep. Exactly.
It is funny you said it because it almost every time I watch this, I wonder like, would this movie, and I'm not letting Jamie sway me. Like I still do love this movie. But I understand. But every time I watch it, and this past time too, I always wonder like, if they had just made a movie where he doesn't get the mask and doesn't just walk slowly everywhere, like, because I almost find him more terrifying in that, like the opening scenes where he's like escaping from the hospital, like he's almost sprightly at certain points.
Yeah. When he
and then for whatever reason, once the mask goes on, it's very like Jason, right? Like in some of the earlies, it's like a slow walk. It's, so yeah, I mean, I think to your point, Dave, like it's definitely a October season watch for Leslie and I, but it is like we put it on, we eat snacks and kind of goof around. Like it's not one that we sit down and fully pay attention to. Like it's like a fun seasonal movie. And I'm not like kind of backtracking on my enjoyment for it, but I, again, kind of get like it's not super exciting, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And Dave, I didn't mean to take it on. I just want to call him a peeping Tom because you said he stands there and watches.
No, and you're absolutely right. I mean,
I want you to finish your Dr. Loomis explaining.
And Joe, to your point, I think that's one of the reasons this movie has endured is because it doesn't demand your attention the whole time. But even last week when we reviewed Scream, the movie that they watched in Scream at the party was Halloween. Because you don't have to pay attention.
Yeah. It's just a fun movie to watch in a group or, with a couple folks now. Yeah.
It has the right soundtrack. It has the right look. Yeah.
I will disagree that I think there is something terrifying about the mask. And I think it's because it is an actual face. Like I always kind of lump Michael Myers and Jason together because they're very similar in that like they don't speak. They kind of just walk at a certain pace. And, there's a lot of similarities there. But there's something I find more frightening about just like a sheet white face with, for all intents and purposes, it's like a human just staring at you, but with no eyes, right?
No expression. Yeah.
It's funny. I went to Riot Fest this past weekend and one Mr. Rob Zombie was one of the performers and we were watching and on like they have two giant screens on the side and they showed the audience at one point and kind of zoomed in on one area. And there was a person standing there with a Michael Myers mask. And it is kind of terrifying of just like this person, straight face, no eyes, staring at you. And it's like, oh, like what's going on in there? So I think that is kind of the appeal of like why he's so frightening. And Jamie, I think to your point, I think a lot of kids gravitate towards that because you put that mask on a kid and it's even more frightening that it's like a small child. So like the parents are like excited about it. So the kids get excited about it. And like now there's kind of like this, hey, let's put this on our 5-year-old and let him walk around the town, Like
this seems safe.
Yeah.
And I agree because the other thing too, like I always liked Tim because he which I think he did like Michael was basically a shark, like black eyes, this just expressionless, just shape of a face. And he just slowly moved and circled in, which that's also kind of scary because, like, if someone's chasing me and if they have expression or anger or something, I may not want them chasing me. I'm like, oh, well, they're mad at me about something. Don't like that. I told them about poop in the shower, whatever it may be. But if someone's coming at me with a knife and I can't see their eyes and it's just this monotonous, just flat face, then I'm like, what did I do? What are they coming at me for?
Yeah. Well, and I think I would never take away from Halloween the position it holds within the genre. I mean, it would be hard to argue against the fact that this movie is foundational for an entire branch of horror movies, being the slasher. I mean, literally, this is the movie everybody refers to when they refer to, quote, the rules, of if you have sex, you're going to die, or if you don't leave the location, or any of all the rules that we saw in Scream last week came from this movie and other movies because even movies like Friday the 13th, nobody in that movie is a virgin. I mean, this is the rules movie. That is not. And honestly, as I was watching it this time with a critical eye, because it's the first time I'd watched it to really say, why do I am I just watching it because it's the tradition, or why do I? And there are things in here that I do think are so critically important, but I don't think it's necessarily about the entertainment quality of the movie. I think it's more about what he did that was so structured and intentional that other people, like even Hooper, I think a lot of what Hooper got right, he got right by a little bit or a lot of skill and a little bit of luck. I think Carpenter knew exactly what he was trying to get to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So let's get into the questions, and I will because Jamie feels like she's on an island all by herself and she wants to dissect this movie and butcher it. Let's let her start off with what questions do you want to jump into, Jamie? Or you do not care anything about this movie?
Listen, I have notes, shockingly. So here's the thing, too. I want to everybody's point that they said also, because you guys mentioned about it, or Dave, you even mentioned, like, when you sit down and actually watch it. So as you all know, and we've all talked about this, like, I take out my notebook and when we're watching a movie, even if I've seen it a bunch of times, which, believe it or not, I have seen this a bunch of times. It's a staple in horror, like we said. It's not like I've only seen it once and then never watched it again. But you guys know I just came back from vacation. I was trying to unpack at the same time. So it's like my notes are all over the place because I've seen this a bunch of times. I never actually sat down critically. And then once I tried to sit down, like, well, this is too boring for me to just sit here when I have to unpack a suitcase, get stuff ready for work, do this, that, and the other thing. So I tried to, like, do both. We'll get into some criticisms about Laurie. I'm not there yet, but like, I do want to say one thing. This is actually not even a criticism yet, but, like, I never noticed till we watched Scream and this back to back, because, again, I don't watch this as I've seen Scream 500 times, but I'm unpacking, and I'm listening to the very minimal dialogue, as Dave said. And she says to the kids, run down to the Mackenzies. And I said to myself, I heard someone in my head saying that. And I said, that's fucking from Scream, Casey Becker's parents. And I've never, in all my years of watching Scream, realized that they did that because of this movie till I'm watching this for the, like, critical eye for this. And I'm sitting there and I hear run down to the Mackenzies, and I'm like, that's the wrong voice. That's not right.
That's awesome. You uncovered an Easter egg.
Yeah, it just took me till now. And of course, I mean, as soon as I heard it, I go, duh, like, obviously they would do that. But, like, that was just, like, that was cute today, because I never ever knew that connection, because I don't watch this like I used to watch Scream. So obviously I know Scream so well that the moment I heard it, I was just like, holy shit, I didn't know they pulled that line right out of this movie. So I was just adorable, and I just wanted to share because I wrote down as soon as I heard it. But there's boobs in this. I mean, at least there's boobs
in this. There's a real housewife in this.
Immediately, like, I want to say that I of all my reasons for not having children, my own personal reasons, I must say, like, at least I don't have to deal with babysitters using my house as a brothel. Because, like, is that a thing? Like, when you're a babysitter, are you allowed to just go to the people's houses and use it for sexual play? Like, whenever whoever's house is, like, abandoned. I
do wonder that, like
they use these houses. Like, are you trusting someone to watch your kid? First of all, let's be honest. Every horror movie back in the day, this is what they ended up doing. Or any movie that has a babysitter is with it. But in this one, it's like, let's go to this person's house. So it's like,
Like, no one had anxiety in, like, any of these movies. Like, I am just terrified of everything, and, like, someone finding out that I messed up their house or something, be like, fuck no, you can't come over here. Like, even teenage me, who, like, would have murdered my parents to touch a boob, would have been like, no, absolutely not. Like,
well, that's like, even the part, like, when Annie's, like, is in their house babysitting their child, and, like, spills the butter on herself.
Oh, I have notes about this.
Just takes her pants off and then just use their wash machine. I
putting on their clothes while she's
right. Like, and I have made the comment to Mary. I'm like, I won't. If I did that in your parents' house, I wouldn't even, like, use their wash machine. Like, I
would burn it to the ground, wouldn't you? Just walk away.
I'd be like, well, I guess I'm spending the rest of the night covered in hot butter. Like, that is my lot in life.
She proceeds to babysit in her underwear and the dad's shirt, I'm going to assume, because of how long it is on her or whatever. Like, I literally wrote that down. I'm so happy you brought it up, Eli, because, like, on top of the brothelness that's happening in this movie, is, like, literally, and it happens in a lot of horror movies, and I get it because nudity, especially back in the day, whatever. But, like, she literally just strips in the middle of their kitchen in a quote unquote stranger's house with the child in the other room, and is just like, like she's topless, right? Because he's peeping Tom again. He's standing there fucking watching her. And she's in like her underwear and no clothes. And the girl's just in the other room watching TV. And she's just like, gonna use your dad's clothes right now. And, you know?
Yeah.
Terrifying.
And even the dog's like, what the fuck are you doing? The dog is not happy.
I don't think you're supposed to be doing this.
Listen, I remember even in like high school, like going to friend's house to like spend the night, whatever, and realizing I forgot like shorts or sweatpants to change
that's
into
the
bed.
end of it.
And then they're like, oh, well, you just borrow a pair of mine. I'm like, I will sleep in my jeans, thank you. Like, I'm like, no.
What did you just say to me?
Yeah, yes, I will be sleeping in my jeans. Like it's like I'm not like I could imagine like she's just like, oh, whatever. And then you have her other friends just like, oh, we're going to this house where the kid's not even there. Gonna bang in their parents' bed.
Yeah, their hotel rooms.
Yeah.
It's so disgusting and disturbing that like I literally was just like, you know, and we've all seen this movie a bunch of times, but like today was the moment I had a final straw on this. Today was the moment I was just like, I don't even understand. Because
that's it.
I guess
these kids are irresponsible.
I guess as a homeowner or whatever, you're like, I don't want these people doing this shit in my house. I don't want these people touching it. I have cameras just to watch my dogs, for fuck's sake. You think someone like is coming in here and fucking with my shit? Like, no.
I don't think you could get a black light as easily back in like the late 70s. So that could be like the reasoning too.
I can see Jamie out and having a dog sitter over and just over the camera intercom, that person hearing, do we not use coasters at your house? What's going on here?
Wait, do they say, I didn't pick up, do they say where the parents are? They're just at like a party.
Everybody's at a Halloween party.
It's a town Halloween party. Yeah.
It's like it's Dave. It's funny because it's a minor. There's nothing to do with that. But like my dog walker, I don't have a sitter yet, but she came while I was like, I had to go into the office for one day or whatever. And she came and she texted me. She texts me when she comes. She texts me when she leaves, whatever. And I have cameras. I would never do that to someone. I would never turn them on because she came in the apartment, whatever. That seems like an invasion of privacy. I trust her. But she messaged me and she just goes, because as Dave mentioned, doesn't know, I have a fucking over 6 Art the Clown animatronic in my living room. And so she messaged me and she goes, by the way, I took a selfie with Art. And I was like, you could have plugged him in and I hadn't done the whole thing. Like, I was like, great. I had to warn her when she came. I had to warn her too. I said, FYI, when you show up my apartment, there's a 6-foot animatronic in the living room. I didn't tell her what it was, but I did do that. Yeah. I was like, don't be freaked out.
Can you imagine like if the parents showed up like while she was standing in the kitchen like that? Like the father's like, I've seen movies like this. It's happening.
Your kid's house. Yeah.
Oh no, I spilled butter. That's how they all start.
Yeah.
Or like if you reverse it and you have like a guy for
oh my god,
walks
in the wife's gown,
like schlong is hanging out. Like, sorry, I spilled butter.
Like my kids.
Don't worry, your kids are in the other room.
Get the fuck out of my county.
Oh my god.
Listen, if there's one thing I've learned about horror movies in the 70s and 80s, parents did not care for their children at all.
No, they didn't give a shit.
That's true.
Let's be honest. It wasn't just the movies. The movies.
No, it wasn't. It was real life.
I was gonna say this is.
That's what I mean. Like it was.
As the person in the back seat of the car at the drive-in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Was that your first like drive-in like nightmare? I remember my parents taking us to see Cat People when I was like when that first came out. Which whatever year. I mean, I was still living in like our first house. It was like elementary or like preschool. And yeah, like looking back, I'm like, I shouldn't have been watching that. Like,
what the hell?
Yeah. Like, it's not even like it's like a horror movie. Like it is, but like, I feel like it's almost like serious. And if I remember right, like somewhat sexual too.
Yeah, it's kind of rapey for sure.
Yeah. But
well, Michael Myers is just a peeping Tom, right? Where we've already established that, like, because in every scene, it starts even as a child, he's going in with her boobies out just because, like, you know, he's got like, and then like staring in windows, staring at Laurie, like he's just constantly just.
Listen, his desire to see boobs is so strong that he figured out how to drive a car to escape the middle of the station.
To be fair, I would like this movie a lot more if Michael Myers' motivation was to see boobs all the time. I think I'd be a lot happier.
That's a storyline you can get behind.
That's a whole different, like, that's how they do a new Halloween remake. It's like his whole.
It might already exist somewhere, Eli, and it's called Halloween.
You came up with that real fast.
I'm on it.
It's got to be out there somewhere. Yeah, go ahead.
So on the story of Laurie, and unfortunately, this is one of those situations to where having the critical eye made me look at her as a leading character.
Yes.
The person I'm supposed to be saddled to throughout the movie. She is just dry toast.
Yeah.
Change my mind. I mean,
She's a plank, as Eli
what
says.
is it that makes her so compelling, honestly? And that's nothing against Jamie Lee. I mean, there's nothing I'm going to say on this podcast that's going to change the fact that she is the scream queen. She is a legend in the genre.
Mm-hmm.
But for this movie that gave her that position, it's hard for me to find it.
Agreed.
Listen, I love
never been mine.
I love Halloween. I will say, like, but I think that's like kind of thing is like she like this can happen to anybody, even this boring teenager who like while all of her friends are out begging in people's houses, she's like actually babysitting and doing her homework.
She's the one babysitter in the entire movie.
In the whole movie.
She wears an apron while she's carving the pumpkins, and like she just likes to read and do well in school, and she's like real quiet and moss, and it's happening to her even. Like, she's not even doing anything wrong. So like I said.
To be fair, like if you were 20 and still in high school, you probably wouldn't be like going crazy, right? Like
you'd be annoyed.
For all intents and purposes, these other guys may be underage for her. That's why, you know, she's not going crazy.
Yeah, that could be. But like it's just like I don't know. Like I always like it's just like this boring, like just sweet girl just trying to do what, you know, she's supposed to and mind her P's and Q's, and like this peeping Tom still wants to look at her murder. So like she wasn't even shown anything. She wasn't wearing you know, the kid she's babysitting's dad's button-up shirt. Like, you know, she had extra clothes on. She was wearing an apron for God's sake.
With her sweater and her wool skirt. And she was fully taken care of.
Yeah, Laurie has never been my girl. Like I know, like, and I think it's exactly like what you said, Dave. Like I know I'm hating pretty hard and whatever, but even as a young kid, like she never appealed. There's nothing. She doesn't fight really. She's not courageous. She's not like,
she's not clever even.
She's just a nice person. Like she's a normal person, which is boring.
She's very boring.
Which is, you know, for like a babysitter, like that's what you want.
Well,
for like
I don't want the
horror
other ones.
movie. It doesn't make for great entertainment, right? Like, I guess, and probably to your point, Dave, like there had to be someone, and if you make her so over the top, then that kind of takes away from like Linda and the other characters as like targets for Michael. You know, it's I don't know what you do with her. I mean, I appreciate the character, like. I appreciate Jamie Lee Curtis and what she's done with it, but in the movie, she is kind of just like filler, you know, she's part of the story that moves things along, but she's not the entertainment for sure.
I thought it was funny this time around, and I had noticed it obviously before, but this time around, I literally was getting a sense of the scene that Carpenter put together in the car with Annie and Laurie, where they're passing a J back and forth to show that, hey, Laurie's cool. I mean, she's got a dark side, but then it has zero impact on her. Like it doesn't change her personality at all. It doesn't change who she is. But she
probably because she fake did it because she was like, I don't want to seem cool with my friends. Just like touch the lips, like, oh.
She went the Clinton route. Is that what you're saying?
Great. Listen,
that was literally the first thing I thought of.
Yeah,
I think it's funny. The thing I focus on now most is Kyle Richards and the fact that there's like a Real Housewife in this movie, and I love the fact that like she's come back for like the later ones, but I think that's like what Leslie and I goof on like for the most part in this movie of anything now.
And then of course PJ Souls, you know, actual playgirl, and they're playing a teenager, which has to make all the other characters feel great. I mean,
I will say she does for me, like she is nails on the chalkboard in this. Like when she finally gets her comeuppance, I'm like, all right, this is, you know, which I think is part of the fun of this. Like Carpenter gets credit for the final girl, for setting the rules and stuff, but I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for making the obnoxious one like you want to like get it, right? Like, because she stands out as, you know, top 3 for me in all time.
Yeah. Not to mention what she's doing with the bedding. I mean, that's just disgusting. I mean, just
it's
unacceptable.
I mean, of all the things, she just went to somebody's house. There's no one even there.
They don't.
Like,
that's.
She like and she's so brash because she's like, yeah, this kid's not going to fucking tell their parents. I'm going to drop it off at this other house where my other friends in her underwear and their dad's shirt. And like, we're gonna go back to her house and beg.
But wait, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't she go to Annie's house? And
No,
that's when they found out the parents were there. And isn't Annie's father the freaking sheriff of this?
I think so.
I don't even know whose
Oh,
house
you're
they
right. Yeah, they go to
I
Annie's
thought they were at the
house.
baby. I have no idea whose house they're at any point in this movie. I just know that they just
It
use
is
these houses
very
at
tough to follow.
however
Yeah.
they want to use these houses. And I just know that every child has to end up with Laurie. That's about it. Hand all the children to Laurie because she has no life and she's going to be home alone on Halloween night. And we're all just going to use everybody's houses as our personal hotel rooms.
Yeah.
But
Like, is Laurie getting a cut of like everybody's pay? I hope. Like,
speaking of betting, we're giving Michael Myers this credit for being this like serious, looming, like no nonsense, no. Does Dave know where I'm going? But like no nonsense. Like he's scary because he doesn't emote, whatever. But he puts a fucking sheet on like a ghost and glasses.
yeah.
And
And then just stands there.
like
I'm just
sitting
caught up
here and
now
I'm
with
going,
like,
we're
yeah.
supposed to think that this is Michael Myers, and he's sitting here fucking playing like peekaboo in a
Was-
fucking like. And
Was he
the
boob
glasses-
paralyzed? Is that what we're supposed to be?
He's like,
Powerless.
this is the closest I've ever
You see
been.
boobs, and no,
maybe
he
if I
killed-
put this
he
on, I'll
killed
see some
some.
boobs. Yeah.
That's true.
I'm
He
just
was
stuck
closer
now,
as a
like
child.
thinking this through. Is Laurie actually a pimp? Like, are these other
She's
two
working the
women
whole
part of her brothel, and like these two guys are paying her, and she's like, "This is my front. They will be, babysitters. You can come over to their house. I watch the kids." Like, maybe Laurie's got like a stable here, and
Maybe
like
because
this
that
is
guy's
whole,
not a teenager. That's a
Yeah.
fact.
I feel like there's a lot more to look into here.
Listen, the other reason I think I like Laurie, because in the game, like they're making fun of her for reading. And like I
For
basically
reading.
yeah, and like I grew up in the Footloose town, except for dancing, it was reading. I had a teacher once tell me, if you read too much, it'll hurt your eyesight. That's the kind of place I grew up. And I was like, I like reading. I get it, Laurie.
Zero of this surprises me, Eli.
I did. Not very many people read where I grew up. It wasn't a big deal. And
I think on your conspiracy theory TikTok, I would love to know the correlation of people that believe that 4 out of 10 people shit in the tub, and those people that also grew up in a town where reading was not allowed.
you got made. I grew up in a very rural place, and you got made fun of if like you read a lot or if you like school. And I remember I wrestled in the before wrestling matches. A lot of times they'd make us just sit at the school and wait for the match starts. You'd have a couple hours. And so normally like people just like sit around there bullshit or whatever. And I was reading, I don't remember what book I was
Lord
reading.
of the Rings.
May probably. And I remember like the wrestling coach who was also one of the teachers like walks by and sees me reading, and like everyone else just like sitting around like bullshit. He goes, if you read too much, that'll hurt your eyes. It's not that good to read that much. And I'm like, you're a fucking teacher, man. Like, why are you telling me this?
Thanks, Professor Cletus.
Yeah, dear Lord.
Modern America is coming into sharp focus all of a sudden.
Yeah, where do we go from here?
So, and we mentioned it a minute ago. Jamie had pointed out what her favorite is, but she can give us more details on that. But I do want to know what is everybody's, because obviously this is a franchise that has long legs.
Mm-hmm.
Use that on purpose. But Jamie, talk us through 3. Is it because it was a Michael free situation?
Yeah, because it's so fucking dumb. Like, I mean, and they're like, because I'm not a big fan of Halloween, I'm flat out saying I have not watched them numerous times. I've seen them. I love Danielle Harris. So I've seen her as a child. I've seen her but I think the one I've watched the most is 3. There's no Michael Myers. It's so goddamn dumb. Like they're rotting people's heads from like, it's just so, it's got that amazing song in it. And like every Halloween, you have to count down to Halloween. I mean, It has become its own little cult. Like, I don't even think, correct me, everybody can yell at me, but I don't even think people think of it as a Halloween movie. It is just like, it's Halloween 3, but like, it's its own little cult classic movie. Like, like if people are even watching, you could watch Halloween, skip 3 and do 3 as its own little thing. Because it has nothing to fucking do with the Halloween franchise as it has become.
Which was Carpenter's vision, if I remember correctly.
Originally, yes.
He wanted to be an anthology thing where every year
it probably should have been
about something
else.
else.
And that would have been really cool. I get it though. People like Michael Myers would we see this happening in 2024. Like you make a character, you make a character, people like it, you got to keep going with it. I get it. Like you make money off of it. I think it could have been really cool as an anthology, especially like then if we got an anthology back, like if we have a 70s into 80s horror anthology, sure there's others, but I'm just saying like that
just
went like
around
that.
Halloween night.
Standalone movies that were around Halloween night, that could have been really cool. See it evolve over years. It could have, for fuck's sake, it could have still been going like 4 years later. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, 3 is when I say my favorite, I just like, it's the only one I like watch. It's the only one. I can't even tell you. I've seen Paul Rudd's in one of these, right? I've seen that one a couple of times. I've seen, and for some reason though, I've seen them fucking all. I saw the new trilogy. I saw the Rob Zombie one. I think I just keep thinking someone will do something better with him than for me. Like, so to our point, I don't really like the originals. I thought maybe Rob Zombie would new. I hated them. I fucking loved the new 3 trilogy. Like, I get thinking maybe someone will put a Jamie spin on it for me and I'll have my own Halloween. But nope, they just keep continuing to suck. So,
well, before I move to the other host, let's officially put a number on it. What is the percentage of Tom Atkins being shirtless in Halloween 3 that plays?
Not Darcy from Joe Bob, who I think has like the biggest but like, yeah, it's such a dumb movie. I mean, anybody could say that. It's such a dumb movie that it's at least it's like fun. It's like so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, drunk, angry Tom Atkins adds at a whole other level.
Like, I think I told someone to watch it, or I was talking about it so much that someone had never seen it, watch it. And they were just like, that's the fucking stupidest movie. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's the fucking point. Like,
it's definitely like, I feel like a nostalgia one for a lot of people. I can't imagine watching it cold now and being like, I don't think so.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. That's the problem with it is like, you can't. Someone can't put it on now and be like, I've never seen this movie. What is this? Yeah. Maybe it's fantastic.
Joe, what about you? What's your favorite in the series?
I mean, kind of like Jamie, a lot of them after 3 just bleed into each other. I'm not a big Danielle Harris fan of the ones that she did. So 1 definitely will always be my favorite. 3, I appreciate for the nostalgia and goofiness of it. It's similar, like we'll watch it around Halloween just because it's so ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, 1, like it would always be that.
Fair enough.
I enjoyed the newer ones though. I'm gonna be honest, like even the last one that everybody hated, like the cult or whatever, like I still found it kind of fun. And it's probably like, I'm, not ashamed to admit the Kyle Richards of it all. Like just seeing a housewife acting, I'm like, yeah, I'm in. Absolutely.
I'm in. Take my money. All right, Eli, this is the part of the episode where you completely piss off Jamie by telling her how much the Rob Zombie is your favorite.
Listen, I
know he likes them.
I like the first one a lot. I like Rob Zombie's first one a lot, and I enjoy the second one, but it's not nearly as good as the first one to me. But my favorite is probably this one.
Okay.
But if you'd have asked like 7-year-old Eli, it would have been 4 and 5 because I loved Danielle Harris and I thought we were roughly the same age.
You had a chance.
She's a lot older than you because isn't she older than me?
Yeah, but you have to remember, like when I was at that age, I didn't realize these movies came out.
Oh, when you saw them, that's right. Like,
I didn't realize there was a gap because all I remember
said she was a teenager. So
all I remember is like my heart was broken, like because I love her, and then like it was like a couple months later, we were watching Roseanne, and she was on Roseanne.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And like as a teenager, and they're like, that's that little girl from Halloween 4, and I was like, what? What happened?
She was born in 77, just in case anybody cares.
So Joe,
she's older than me. Wow, I had no idea. Yeah, I always thought she seemed like so young in those movies, and I definitely saw like 4 and 5 when they came out, and so yeah, she would have been around the same age as me. I never I never felt urges, Eli, like
Well.
you apparently. Like,
Well, then you're lucky you didn't have that heartbreak. Okay.
I mean, she was like 11. Like,
Eli, what about when she was in the Rob Zombie ones when she actually like was more attractive?
I liked
like older.
I liked her a lot. Both of the Rob Zombies.
I mean, I like
she was
her,
probably. I thought like her and Brad Dourif both were probably some of my favorite characters in the Rob Zombie ones.
Brad Dourif on golf.
Oh, who was he in the? I only saw
the sheriff. He was her dad.
Oh, okay. I can't. Remember. Oh, he was her dad. Okay. I didn't remember him being. Yeah.
Side note. I mentioned I saw Rob Zombie this past weekend. I was never like a big fan. I liked White Zombie and stuff, but he's not doing well. Like he cannot hold a note. Like he tried to do some of the old White Zombie stuff, and like I feel like every third word he could get out, like because he's just huffing and puffing.
I saw him a couple years ago, and I thought that and I was like, "This is rough."
The chain smoking hasn't been kind to him. Is that what
I don't know, like what his deal is, but yeah,
and
I don't know.
I was like, maybe he's getting too old for this. And then my theory was turned out to be true when he took he did this 10-minute thing where they brought out all these inflatable aliens.
There was a lot of aliens.
Yeah, it's because that song it's a song called "Aliens Fucking on a Spaceship."
Oh yeah,
But he kept dragging out, laughing about the aliens. I'm like, oh no, he's breathing. He's taking a break to breathe.
That and he said Chicago like an alarming number of times to the point where you're like, is he trying to remember where he is? Anyway, I didn't mean to sidetrack us.
So for me, because of that revelation I had of being a kid who was at the drive-in, this is the one that if I was pressed, I would say to it, but to be a little more diverse with, because three of us have now said that one, and it's earned that role because it was the one that started it. But the one I have the most fun going back and watching, because I've watched all of these, and I mentioned it in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre review that we did year one, I guess. Holy crap. This is the series of all this series, like as a full franchise, other than Evil Dead. This is my second favorite of the series because they tried a lot of shit. I mean, they did a lot of different stuff, but the one that I felt like I finally leaned into it and just gave into the chaos was Resurrection, because you've got Kung Fu Buster Rhymes in that one.
God,
oh my God, I hate that one.
Awesome.
No, it was not awesome.
I'm with you, Dave.
So much.
I hate that one.
Appreciate those early 2000s ones that were just
they just went for
it. H2O was another nonsense.
When they trying to cash in on the I Know What You Did Last Summers and stuff,
putting every almost celebrity they could get their hands on.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I think the one, if I had to pick a least favorite, it's whichever one has Josh Hartnett in it, though.
That's H2O.
Is it?
I like H2O a lot.
That guy and his hair, I will never be able to get over.
His haircut was rough. I'll agree with you that, because it looks like, because I remember when I first watched that a couple times, I was like, did they fuck up? When they were in makeup, and they're just we don't got the money to fix it.
Joe, I needed your energy when we reviewed 30 Days of Night, because these two were going on and on about how great he was, and I did not see it at all.
Listen, I don't care what anybody says. If anybody questions whether or not Josh Hartnett can act, you've never watched the original Penny Dreadful.
No, I haven't.
I said the same thing. No,
Penny Dreadful. He is fantastic. It's my hands down.
Isn't he in that new? I haven't seen it. That new Shyamalan Ding Dong movie.
I thought he did really good, and I liked.
You watched it?
The ending's rough but I mean, it's fucking M. Night Shyamalan. Who would have guessed? But honestly, he actually it was a fun movie, and he did a really good job.
I'm going through his movies. I didn't dislike 30 Days of Night, but just like him, I
love 30 Days of Night.
He's very what's that? My So-Called Life. Like that. I feel like if you enjoyed that show, you enjoy Josh Hartnett.
Not Jared Leto.
He's similar. He might as well be. He's low rent Jared Leto.
No.
100%.
Jared Leto's a douche for all intents and purposes.
He's Jared Leto, but can't get Jared Leto's haircut. He's if this was high school, he'd be like Jared Leto's sidekick. Who
I was hoping
Cody.
We would finally come together and meld. tonight. But with that statement,
Jared
you
Leto
appreciate
is
that.
Gaston, and what's his
what?
name is the little chubby guy that kind of bounces around.
Oh, I can't believe you're saying this.
What else do we have? Skipper and Gilligan.
Oh no! Get out of here, man! Get out of here.
Joe is finally free forever. It sounds like.
To be fair, I can't stand Jared Leto either. And
No.
there are rumors now of like him kind of creeping into like people's DMs and stuff, and I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for that shooting.
You know that guy's just a hot.
You know,
mess.
he's already under investigation for having a cult. So in the desert,
Jared Leto or Josh Hartnett now?
Jared Leto.
Oh yeah, he's a dick. I mean, he's fucking giving people dead animals, right? On the set of like, he's a fucking douche.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you know he's been at a Diddy party for sure. No.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah,
you know who? Now we're completely off the rails, but apparently Ashton Kutcher is like just on the verge of coming out as being at those Diddy parties, and I'm like, what a time to be alive for all these people I hated. Like, you know, just him. If it turns out Anthony Kiedis was there, I'm like, you know what? I don't need the internet anymore. Like, I'm done.
You're like, all my dreams have come true.
Yeah, it's like, it's good. All right, shut it down.
I knew it all this time. Y'all told me I was an idiot. I knew.
Hey, you know who's not gonna
Michael Myers
not been seen there? I was gonna say Josh Hartnett, but
no, I was gonna say Laurie Strode because she was babysitting everybody's kids.
Because he was downstairs he was downstairs keeping the car warm for Jared Leto because he's like, no, I gotta go up. Don't worry, you'll come next time. You'll come next time, Josh. I promise.
Okay, boss. Okay, boss.
Okay, I'll be down here.
You like my hair though, right?
I'll just be down here with the scissors trying to fix this. Like, oops, a little too short there. I guess I'll even it out. Oops, a little too short there.
There was one movie we had a bad ears. One movie, man.
Doggone it.
But you didn't even like him in The Faculty?
No, that movie is unwatchable. Like if we wanted to do
The Faculty.
Like if that movie I would put on the I can't watch this podcast or whatever you guys are doing. Like, we did that for Bloody Good Horror, I think, at one point, and it was I hadn't seen it like when I was growing up, so it was like 20 or 30
you had to
years
watch
later.
it now as like a
just like, oh, this is like everyone I hated in high school.
There's
I like
Frodo and
Hey, don't you malign Frodo, okay?
Do you remember they had like a terrible Pink Floyd cover that We Don't Need No Revolution they did for that movie? I think it was like Alice in Chains, but like a bunch of other people in it. It was so awful.
I'm sure Manson was in there. Yeah, it sounds like the kind of thing Manson would have done.
It was basically the rock and roll, the rock world's We Are the Children. It was terrible. I 100% agree with you. It was not good.
Anyway, Halloween.
Back to Halloween.
Sorry.
Did anybody else have any questions? I just had a couple more. I've really enjoyed the conversation so far. Lots of new revelations. Lots of new content is on the table now.
To be fair,
Laurie Strode is a pimp, I guess.
You said this very early, and I'm not taking away from Carpenter or movie maker, any of that, but the plot of this movie is literally one sentence. I think of all the movies we've done, there's a few we've done, where you could sum it up in a sentence. There is no plot to this movie. And like you said, there's very minimal dialogue to this movie.
Yeah.
And no action to this movie, if you ask me. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard for me because, I joked that I was there, but I was 5 years old. I had no social or cultural awareness, but I know the impact that the movie The Strangers had in the 2000s of, holy shit, this could really happen. I have to imagine that in the 70s, this movie had very much that same energy. And that probably was a mind blower for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
This wasn't a fucking ghost or a zombie or anything. This was a guy with a knife and a mask. And that hits really close to home, especially, I mean, you're just starting to crank up the whole satanic panic, but you're also getting, this is at the start of all of the check your kids candy because it's got razor blades and stuff and all that. So we're starting to enter that paranoia stage of parenting and all of that stuff at this time. So I think that's part of it, Jamie. I don't know if that's a full answer, but I do think this movie
I get it.
was probably much more edgy than we give it credit for in 24 when it came out.
I mean, he's the thing, like, the kid literally says in the movie, like there's moments in this
He's the
movie
boogeyman.
before, yes, there's moments the kid just keeps asking about boogeyman. Laurie's like, the boogeyman's not real. You know, it's literally explained to you in this movie, you know, and then there he is.
Yeah,
Does he
there's
become
nothing
supernatural and everything else in later movies? Yes, I think, or whatever. Like,
yeah,
like
but there's
everything
nothing
else.
about in this movie to the plot question. There's nothing in this movie
No.
that couldn't happen.
No, he broke out of a mental institution, which unfortunately, that's a stereotype that a lot of people like to play up in movies. He's crazy. But I mean, he was in the mental institution because he killed his sister when he was little.
That,
so, you know, yeah, I mean, I get it.
But it's not a grandiose plot. I mean, to the point Eli made it, and I agree, you know, that's the kind, and until he did the thing, that's the kind of structure that Carpenter was really comfortable in. It was very short story, you know, 3 act, building very methodically through it. And I think for where he was in his skill set, he really reached beyond what a lot of people thought he was capable of. I think this set him on a path to do these kind of movies, because nobody expected him to make a movie that, to your point, is a 1-sentence pitch to a studio to make something that would blow minds.
Well, you figure too, at this point, there wasn't a whole lot of what I would classify as slashers, like mainstream slashers, I would say, right? Before this mainstream, there was only really Psycho, and then this came out and they did a short stint in theaters, and then it was on ABC. They did the ABC cut. They put it was part of the deal. It was in theaters, I think, for a couple months, and then it went straight to television. Like, so this is really like, there wasn't a lot before this. So like, definitely now, like they do television shows about slashers and like all this stuff. And so yeah, like looking back, yeah, but like at the time, this was like, can you imagine on a Friday night, you're sitting at home with your family, and then this sumbitch shows up on ABC, the same channel you watch the news and the Legend of Boggy Creek. Like,
see, that's part of the whole, and this happens every once in a while on here for some of us, different movies than others, but that's the whole problem with watching for me, watching something like this now, because I didn't get to see it when it was completely something new. I saw it even at a young age, but I saw it when I was watching Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw and random things, Pet Sematary and all these other things. And this is just thrown in the mix. This didn't get to be from all of us. Dave doesn't count. He was 5. He's traumatized. Like, this didn't get to be our intro to, we're not that age. Like, we didn't get to experience this like my dad experienced The Exorcist in theater. Right. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, we didn't get to have something start a whole, it was just, for me, it was just thrown in with the others. Like, who came first? Jason, Michael, you know, once you learn those things, once you get to an age and you can learn about what year things are made and you realize and you understand filmmaking, but like, he was just thrown in with all the others, and like throwing him in with the others, for me, he's the least compelling. And I was just like, okay. Like,
it has nostalgia,
I got Pinhead. I got Pinhead over here doing fucking bizarre, crazy shit that doesn't even make sense. And like, you want me to be scared of, you know, Michael Myers just slowly walking towards, watching me. I mean, watching me undress 18 times.
Hold up, Jamie. Are you saying that you find a character who practices in sex blood magic a little more compelling than Michael Myers? Is that what you're saying?
I think so.
But I get it. It's true. Like, there's nostalgia
we didn't
for
get
it,
to
but
see
there's
him
not
I didn't get
full
to see
nostalgia.
Him.
Like, you can't watch, like, have a sleepover with a bunch of your friends when you're 12 and watch Toxic Avenger and then this, right? Like, there's no comparison.
And I get it that we're all right here. We're close in age, but all different in age. And I get it. Like, 3 of you love it and whatever. And everybody in the horror community, I get, like, it's not like we all were the age to see it in theaters and didn't. Like, it's not like, oh, just, you know, all of us who didn't see it in theaters don't love it. I get that. I'm just saying, for me, like, all these things that Dave is saying, I wish I could have appreciated. Like, I wish for me, this was like an intro to slashers. Like, I wish I was seeing whatever kind of regular movies, and then this came out and you would just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, you know, like, it's just a different, but instead for me, it's just thrown in the others. And whenever I saw it is whenever it was in my intro to horror movie days of just absorbing everything. Like,
which history class, probably for Dave, why it's a little different for us, because it was, I mean, at the time I saw this, like the only thing I had to compare it to was like Nightmare on Elm Street Nightmare was a little later, but like Friday the 13th and like stuff along those lines, which hadn't gotten so far out of this realm. I would say the only other one that pops in my head is like Christine, which is like a killer car, and like Jaws and stuff. So it was like, there wasn't, it's almost like, you know, kids on the internet now, right? Like there wasn't as much stimulation, you know, it was kind of like, this is what you got. Yeah. And, you know, there's someone killing and there's boobs and it's like, oh, okay. But like, you know, now I think about this all the time, like watching these movies and stuff and like the newer stuff, like someone, if there was like a time machine, like saw Halloween and was blown away by it, and then you transport them 40 years into the future and show them like Terrifier, right? It's like, holy shit. Like
they murder people on TV.
Yeah.
And I got lucky because like this was the first horror movie I ever watched. So like this was the first. And then I think that's why it's like right there.
So. Yeah, and that's fair. And listen, this is I'm in the minority. This is in people's top 5, if not 3 horror movies of all time. Like, let's be realistic. I just like, but it's like, it's one of those, we've had this conversation. Like, I wish I saw it at a different time. We always say like, oh, I wish I saw the movie Eli saw. Like, I just wish I saw this at a different time. Yeah. And again, I saw it young, but I still wish I saw it at like a different time. Yeah. And I saw it young, so did my sister. My sister loves this. Like, probably still does, I would assume, but she loved this when she first saw it. Like, we were only 2 years apart when we saw it. You know what I mean? But like,
it's funny. And this is going to sound like an insane comparison, but I think about it constantly. Like, I scroll through TikTok a lot, and like back when I used to be on Facebook, I would get a ton of like monster truck promos. And have you seen monster trucks lately? Like, they're doing flips and like all over the place. I got one today where like
monster trucks are awesome. By the way, they're awesome.
It turned out the thing I was watching was like an RC car that they did like a perspective shot, because it was like literally doing like Tony Hawk grinds on like rails and stuff. But like, and I go back and think, and like when I was a kid, and Dave, you can probably relate to this, like monster trucks just went up, smashed, and kept going. And it was cars. The most amazing thing in the world. I was like, holy crap, it crushed a car. I took my kids like a few years back, and like they were doing backflips, and I'm just like, again, like if you fast forward from the future or going, you know, if I showed my kid what I used to watch with monster trucks, to be like, oh, cool, like they crush stuff, but like, where's the flips? You know, it's
doesn't the redneck down the street have one of those trucks? That's what
exactly. Like it's perspective of the whole thing.
No, I agree, and Halloween is in a sacred place, and it deserves to be in a sacred place, but it does suffer by comparison. I don't think any of us would argue that. But to your point, Jamie, I compare it to, you know, things that were culturally significant to me, like me seeing Blair Witch Project in the theater. That was a cultural event, a social event. Like everybody was talking about that movie and how it was scaring the shit out of people. For you, it was probably something like Scream. Like that was a cultural event that like kind of shaped a time in horror, because there were horror movies before Halloween, but it did a thing that changed. It like changed the direction of where this big chunk of horror was going to go for the next 40 years.
And it kind of stinks, as I feel like, and I could be completely wrong, but I feel like this genre more than any suffer from the whole, oh, I wish I saw that in theaters more than any other genre. Like, I wish I saw The Exorcist. I saw The Exorcist in theaters in the re-release in 90 something or whatever. But I mean, like, I wish I had my dad's experience in theaters, and I wish I saw Jaws in theaters. It's my favorite movie. I saw it in theaters in whatever it was 5 years ago for one of the anniversaries, but it's not the same as everybody who got to experience these movies for the first time. And all the ones I'm using are horror movies, because I feel like horror is a genre that, like, I don't know, I'm sure I'm wrong because I'm not a big comedy or drama fan, but how many dramas are people like, I wish I really saw, you know?
There's something to be said for seeing it in an audience that is seeing it for the first time.
Kane in theater.
You know, and either it's, you know, laughing for a comedy or like horror, like being terrified, you know, there's something to be said of seeing it in an audience. And honestly, even like to your point back, like when, you know, your parents saw it before like phones and distractions, and like you were there to see the movie, but like,
and that's probably all you talked about for the next week.
Yeah. Like one of our generation, again, we're all different ages, like The Sixth Sense, because it was still before the internet, and it was still, you know what I mean? It was it was a moment in pop culture.
There was no internet spoiling any of it for you. There was no phones for you to like get distracted while you're watching. Like it was just, it was a different environment, not to sound like you know.
We're showing our age. We're showing our age.
And you figure too, this movie at the time was kind of crazy because not only did it come out in theaters and like everybody who went and saw it and liked it, they're like, oh man, this is going to be on ABC when they looked at their TV guide in like 3 months. And then they sit at home, watch it, and they add a whole, the channel made them add the plot point about her being his sister. And then everybody's like, I didn't even see that in the theater. What is happening?
That was added to the first one? I thought that didn't come until the second one.
No, they hinted at it in the television for the first one.
Okay.
It's like his sister still lives here. When Loomis is in the sheriff's station,
his sister. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And it was added as a lead into the second
one.
movie.
The second one, yeah.
Because he signed when they made that deal for it to be on because it's something new they were trying. They wanted a 3-movie deal, which was also unheard of at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So why was 1 and 2 about Michael Myers and then 3 not?
He only wanted the first one to be about Michael. Okay. He wanted every year because the deal was they were going to do this in theaters, and then it was going to go to ABC, and every year there'd be a new Halloween, a new story.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Did really well in theaters. Yeah. Everybody loved Michael. It got on ABC. They got huge ratings, and then he was getting ready to film the second one. They're like, "Excuse me, Mr. Carpenter. We would like you to do this about Michael again." He's like, I don't really want to. So they threatened to pull his contract. So he did the second one about Michael. And they're like, hey, for that third one, Michael's got to be in it. And he went, sure. And then that's when you see Michael in a 30-second commercial on the TV when they're in the bar. Yeah. They do a trailer when like the one place when Tom Atkins, I can't remember if it's like a bar or a store or whatever, on the TV in the background is a commercial for Halloween, the first one, but the whole commercial is Michael walking down the steps because he wanted to do a minimum count time so they couldn't claim that Michael wasn't in the movie. And then they didn't ask him to do no more.
Yep.
They found a new director.
And John went on to do The Thing, so it turned out fine.
Yeah. But this was the start of his turning into the grumpy old man. So
his hate for Hollywood
and people.
Yeah. But to your question, Jamie, I think the short answer that we all know is that despite popular belief, there is some pretty good data to show that people are kind of stupid and they don't like change.
Yeah.
You know, if you had a group of people that like made this first movie so popular and talked about it, and it was like this cultural touchstone, and you made the next movie without that character in it, audiences are going to cross their arms and stamp their feet and throw a fit because we're creatures of, we like what we like, and once we've decided we like something as a group, there's this mob mentality about it. But you know, I agree. I think the whole having a different thing just based on Halloween night would have been a much cooler thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that Hollywood would have ever, I mean, I do know because they didn't. Hollywood would never back that kind of concept. It's just too many questions of one's good, one's bad. There's no consistency. They want their money back. That's what want.
I think maybe now, if like this is something you could kind of get away with now, just because there have been some things that have done that and kind of got successful, like American Horror Story. Every season,
every season is a different
story. Like you might have to do the same thing where like you bring the actors back, whatever. But like this is something they might about to get away with now. But
and I think you may have feces between your toenails. But
how dare you? I don't shit in the shower, Dave. And I would not have you malign my good name.
I didn't even know it existed until you.
No.
Neither did I. I saw it on TikTok, and then my whole world was shattered. Now I trust no one. And no one outside of my household will be showering in my shower.
That's good policy just in general.
Yeah. It's probably a good policy for them.
But Jamie, to your point, if we did an anthology thing, one thing I was thinking in this movie, and I do believe this, and we can talk more about it, but the one thing that I think makes this movie work more than anything else is Donald Pleasence as
Yes.
Dr. Loomis. Like, he is the guy who is carrying the freaking movie. But if the anthology had played off of this psychiatric doctor who every year gets the call that some killer is out there,
Yeah,
he's going to a different city and there's a different kind of killer that he's investigating, and he's literally coming unhinged more and more throughout the movies until he becomes the killer. Now that's a franchise that I could have gotten, because Donald Pleasence could carry that.
Oh yeah.
He just looks like the guy who's on the edge of making some really bad decisions.
Yeah.
At all times.
I mean, you get to a point at like the end of 5 where even Michael is looking at him like,
you okay,
bro? what you
Need to chill out.
Yeah, what are you? Because like he literally he has a doctorate in medicine, and the man was like, I'm gonna set up this fucking Looney Tunes trap with a metal chain and beat him to death with a 2x4. And the police were just like, okay, because like they looked at
the doctor.
One eye is like way open, is twitching. He's got that half bird face, and it's like, whatever you want to do, man. That's what you want to do, and we're gonna use this little girl as bait. Sure.
He went full Rube Goldberg, that's for sure.
You have like one little sick kid who has like asthma rate shaking. What does he think? You're like, it's a child, man. What are you doing?
So anything else on Halloween, or have we said our piece on this movie? Great movie. I think it still needs to be said that this was a 20-day shoot. I mean, that's pretty freaking impressive.
And in that 20 days, I still, when I watch that movie, he did such a good job of like the setting that I can like, I always get that sense of like, oh, it feels like fall just by watching it. Cause like it's such a like iconic fall setting in that town.
Yeah.
I think it was filmed in California though, right?
Yeah. They were bringing leaves in and painting in and spreading that. I mean, literally one of the fun little trivias is Robert Englund was a set dresser one day on Halloween.
Well,
he was
funny.
spreading leaves one day.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, 20 days just to walk back and forth between 3 houses. Like, feels like they may have been able to cut that down, actually.
40 days, your clothes off and put on a shirt. And,
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd say there are some scenes in there that they stretched quite a bit. I think maybe the car scene with Laurie and Annie, that probably took several days to shoot, and they probably went through a lot of content. Okay, so you heard Joe earlier, Jamie make reference to it. We have added something new this year for Camp Wicked Wild, where I've built a grade card for each of our survivors for us to give a final grade to, where I've chosen, some important characteristics of a true survivor that we're going to grade from 1 to 10. And I'm going to let, since you're just learning about it, I'm going to let Jamie start, because she's already got anxiety about it, which I think is fantastic. So obviously, Jamie, if you remember, the first one, or the first aspect of our survivor that we need to grade, is her endurance.
0. No. All right. I want to say something going into this. I'm not trying to sway anybody's decision here. I want to remind everybody that we had Sydney Prescott last week. Okay. And I want to remind everybody that as I'm watching this movie, and I keep frequently pausing it because I do need to get stuff done, but I don't want to miss things in this movie that has no dialogue and no action. I noticed that Laurie does not literally encounter Michael until the 15-minute to the end of the movie mark. Now that's with credits, because I was just looking at the timestamp. And that in that she spends some of that just ushering the kids to a different house, running, whatever. So literally Laurie and Michael must interact for about 8 minutes of this movie is what I want to say before we do anything. So what is it? Endurance? Yeah. She only had 8 minutes of the goddamn movie. She did fucking, and she's in a fit in the closet fucking crying or whatever. I think she's done. So her endurance is she doesn't have to endure anything. She's a 5. She's a 5.
What is this, out of 10?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she endured all those kids that she ended up having.
No, that's a big, but
I'll go
we're talking
8.
final girl. We're talking final girls here. She's a 5.
Yeah, but I will say there's nothing more terrifying.
That's a long
children.
night either way,
I will take one Michael Myers over 4 kids. I forget how many she has to deal with at one point.
And let's not forget her friends that she had to endure.
Yeah.
Great friends to start with.
She's got to collect from her clients. There's a whole things she's got to deal with. She's dealing with a real housewife. They are very difficult. I can tell you. Yeah. I would go 8.
All right. Eli, what do you think?
I would also do an 8 because that whole day she's watching kids. And then at one point she's walking back and forth trying to find their babysitters.
This is supposed to be against like the villain, not the fucking children in the movie.
But
I didn't hear the rules.
Endurance is not just about the killer. It's what her endurance is. And she endured dealing with children, endured dealing with Michael. And then when it's all said and done, she goes out and endures this crazy old man who's got a gun that no one knows, just fired it around. I'd go with an 8.
All right. Well, and this is not to balance the scales. I'd already kind of set some of mine in here. I'm giving her a 3.
Thank you, Dave.
Because literally, and it was the scene where she runs across the street, bangs on the door until the kid lets her in, and then is fully gassed and has to lay on the floor.
Her leg was hurt, Dave. Her leg was hurt.
I was too high in my rating, but it's fine. Let's go.
Her leg was hurt.
All right. Second, and a very important one for any good survivor, is evasion. And Eli, I'll let you start us off on her skills of evasion in Halloween.
Man,
talk me through this one, pal.
Listen, despite my love for Laurie Strode, every time Michael is within an arm reach of her, he does grab her. She
runs right into closets.
She is not very evasive. There's she manages to get out. That's a different attribute in my mind from what we're gonna do here. But she does kind of manage to run, and she does manage to get around him. So I would go with a 4.
A 4, okay.
Yeah.
Jamie, before you answer, I do want to point out that you just made a point that she avoids him for 95%.
Oh, that's true.
No. He doesn't. She doesn't avoid him. He's not there. He's watching
You're right.
her.
You're right. I'm sorry.
He's not evading anything.
Evades him for 95% of the movie.
She gets a 2. She gets the 2. I don't give a shit.
Got her.
She gets a 2. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I heard you correct. All right, Joe.
I'll go 6. I think, 6? To your point, he gets hands, but I don't, those, the closet ones, I would say those are probably the most frightening of the movie for me. So.
And they're problematic situations that she created.
Yeah. For sure.
All right. I had a 4 for her. So I'm right there with Eli on her. All right. Another important one for our survivors, luck. Where did she land on luck, Joe?
Does she have much luck? I mean,
that was the same problem we had last time, but this one, she has more luck than Sydney.
I mean, I guess to your point, she's very lucky that she ends up in the house that he never goes into. So maybe luck is high. Maybe I would go 7, luck wise.
All right. Eli?
She's lucky that no guy wants to come over and pursue her.
I would give her a 9. Because twice in this movie, in the darkness, in bad situations, she's not only grabbed by Michael, but then grabs a random weapon and stabs him in 2 major critical points, his eye and his neck. So blindly, that's a lot of luck right there.
Fair.
That's a lot of luck.
All right, Jamie, how lucky was Miss Laurie?
We had this discussion last time where it doesn't matter. It's all going to be an overall ranking, but we did discuss that for final girl, luck is kind of a bad thing. You don't want to be high on luck because that means that's the only reason you survive. But it also is going to play into her ranking. So I don't know how I feel about that. So I can't give her a 9, which her whole fucking existence is just luck. She doesn't fucking do shit.
Well, as the statistical holder, and Joe and Eli didn't know this, whatever grade you give me, I put it on the opposite end of the scale because I agree. The more lucky you are, the less of a survivor you are.
Yeah.
So what Joe actually gave her was a 3. Joe gave her a 3 and Eli gave her a 2.
Thank you. Good to know.
Wait,
because we had this conversation with Sydney, and Sydney just didn't have luck, so we put her right in the middle. I think you and I put her in the middle because luck didn't play into anything. She was 5. Yeah. Okay. Luck. I'm literally trying to think of how much of this movie is even how much luck even goes her way. I guess we all said, the fact that he wants to hang out with people who are banging instead of her who's watching children for most of the movie. 7. 7.
A 7. Okay.
Mm.
Well, I also gave her a 9 for luck, so I'm giving her.
I was gonna
just
go that
like
high,
you.
but I thought everybody would yell at me for like trying to.
Well, honestly,
tank
I think her
To be honest,
survival.
only one person has raised their voice on this episode, Jamie.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right. Obviously, now we're getting into the wet skills, the soft skills of any survivor. What is her weapon skill, Eli?
Oh man, once again, I'd have to give her a 9.
What?
Listen, hear me out.
What weapon?
A sewing needle, a knitting needle, excuse me, and a fucking clothes hanger.
Okay.
Come on.
The thinnest, the flimsiest weapons, and she hit in the
It's your
dark.
grade. You can discredit your own reputation any way you want to, but a 9 it is then. All right.
I'm just saying.
Jamie.
2.
2. Okay.
Yeah, I would go 4. I mean, there's not much in the way of weapons there.
She's not carrying nunchucks or anything like that. Or even a nice machete. All right. I put a 3. That's what I had here for. All right. 2 more. Intuition. Joe, walk me through this one. What do you think?
Ooh. I mean, I don't know. I think I would go low as well, because probably like a 3, because there's not much precedent, right? Like,
right.
I don't think she knows what she's getting into. Like, there's no like Scream, whatever you all gave her. Like, there's the rules, and like the whole thing is based on like, oh, I know this is what I should do, and like, I kind of feel it, but no, she's just kind of there to everyone's point.
Jamie?
3. I was going to do like this. I don't know. There is no intuition in this movie. Never mind. I hate Laurie Strode as a final girl. I'm sorry. I like the final girls that we've gotten in more modern time. And I'm not a feminist. I like my final girls bloody, beaten, kicking ass, not
and
crying in a closet by the end of the movie. Like, I have a final girl necklace for a reason, and it's not crying in a closet, which is what I would be doing probably. Yeah. But like, it's not the one I want. Like, that's not what I want.
But to your point, like, if your immediate reaction when you see someone breaking your house is to go into like the slatted, closet, it's like, all right, maybe you're not really making the best choices here.
And fashion a weapon out of a clothes hanger.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Eli.
Laurie is a sweet summer's child. I would have to wear 3.
Ooh.
I would have to do a 3, unfortunately.
Okay.
Her intuition is not the great. Is like,
We are locked in. That's what I had her down for as well. It was a 3. Yeah, just because she is completely oblivious to him being around her the entire movie.
At one point, she sees him staring from the bushes at her. Doesn't tell nobody.
She sees him. Weird. She's in class and he's staring at her. She's like,
that's weird. Oh, I keep seeing this weird car drive by at 2 miles an hour
with the same masked guy in it. But I'm sure it's fine. I don't know.
Yeah, what's gonna happen?
She's not using a lot of it.
Oh, my friends want to go bang in the neighbor's house. I guess I'll just take all these kids. What's the worst that gonna happen?
And here's the one, because let's all be honest, in 2024, are any of us lining up to go have coffee with Laurie Strode? Not Jamie Lee Curtis, but Laurie Strode. Let's talk about her influence in the movie. Jamie?
Oh God, 1. Are we allowed to give zeros? This woman influences nothing in this movie. Her friends don't even like her. They don't want her to hang out with them. Like, the kids barely listen to her. Like, she tells the kid there's no boogeyman. He's like, there is. Trust me, there is. Like, this woman has influence on nothing. She's the 1.
Fair enough. Or even her survival. I mean, it's Dr. Loomis who has to come and get the job done.
Yeah, I mean.
All right, Joe.
Influence, I don't know if I would go high. I will say I wouldn't mind like having a cup of coffee, because I feel like she probably wouldn't ask any questions. Like,
it'd be a quiet meeting.
Yeah, there wouldn't be much like in depth. It would be like, oh yeah, I like that show. Influence though. I mean, she wrangles those kids. I would go 5.
5, okay. Eli?
Yeah, I'm with Joe. I'd do a 5, because she does, like, when she finally gets mad and the kids are like, oh, okay, we'll listen now. They run away. They listen to her a couple times. So
because there's a crazy person trying to kill them, that's when they listen.
But like, kids never listen.
All right, so got the totals. I'm going to go through each host's totals, and then I'll give you the grand total. At the highest of everybody tonight is Eli. The highest score for Laurie Strode, the Eve of all Final Girls and Scream Queens. Highest score of the night, 5.17. Next highest is Joe. No surprise there. I think he was trying his best to make this work for him.
Yeah.
4.83.
Like that's how I would describe my life. Trying, man. Just trying my best. Make it work for me.
And then the next highest is me at a flat 3. That's where she ended across the board for me. And then not even getting to that level, Jamie, big surprise of the night, of course. Laurie Strode, as a survivor, gets a grade of 2.67.
Hey, I stand by that. Can we each week have where the girls land total?
Sure. Yeah. So last week, if you don't remember, or last time that our last review was Scream, and we had Sydney Prescott. Her score was a 7.25.
Wow.
Our classic 90s final girl. The progenitor, the starter of the whole thing, Laurie Strode, 3.92.
Listen, but she had to do it on her own. She didn't have all these other people to watch and learn from, So like, hey,
just a smidge over half of what Sydney Prescott got. So we're off to a grand start, right?
I have a minor, I don't even want to call it fun fact because I don't want people to get disappointed. But since I am on this podcast, as we're talking about, my name was apparently inspired by Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, really?
My parents decided to spell it the wrong way.
I was going to say,
I say the right way. Yeah, they didn't. Well, rumor has it, and I could be wrong with the story because I actually haven't asked it a long time. It was like inspired by Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm not joking about this. Then my parents were in like a supermarket, and the girl's name was the same, but it was spelled my way, and it was like a whole.
So that's
your middle name is your middle name's Octavia, right?
Well, thank y'all so much. I really enjoyed tonight's conversation. I mean, it's a classic. People have talked this movie into the ground. There was no new ground we were going to cut, but genuinely, there were some things I discovered about us that were a lot of fun to dig into. Some of them less fun than others, but here we are. But to that point, Eli, what are we following up Halloween later this same week on Thursday on Campfire Tales?
Well, obviously, we're not talking about Laurie Strode because none of you can be nice. Okay, none of you can be nice, so we're not going to talk about Laurie Strode. But what we are going to talk about, last time we were looking for a new slasher, right? We're looking for a new one,
and we found a good one. We found 4 good ones. I think
we did. Yeah. I remember Jamie told me once before she did not like Laurie Strode, so this time we're going to try to find, based from Lores and Legends, the best final girl.
Yes.
Jamie.
Oh, cool.
I'm curious where that lands.
Mm-hmm. I can get behind that.
You're invited, Joe, if you want to. You've never dipped a toe in the chaos that is Campfire.
Oh, it's chaos.
Oh, no, thank you.
Oh, well, okay. Screw you too, buddy.
I may have asked that just to get that reaction. Thanks for playing along, Joe.
Oh, Thursday? I got a thing.
You, what, crying in your basement again? You literally started the episode by saying you do nothing.
Just got personal in here.
Oh, boy.
Well, thanks for listening. We hope you're enjoying Camp Wicked Wild 2024 Survivor School. If you enjoy our podcast, we do ask you to subscribe, rate the show, give us a review, give us a comment in there. If you want to learn more about the podcast or any of our hosts, you can do that on our website, thewickedwild.com. We are on social media. We're on X at Wicked Wild We Are. Slasher, the horror only community at Wicked Wild We Are there as well. Instagram at Wicked Wild Pod. And then we do release all of our reviews and Campfire Tales and little shorts, fun shorts that we pull out of our episodes on YouTube. Just search the Wicked Wild Podcast and you'll find us there. Let's see, if you have any comments or anything other than shower talk, I'm just taking that off the table right now. If you want any comments that are cogent to the actual rest of the conversation we had tonight, send me an email at podcast@thewickedwild.com, and I'm happy to look at that and share it with the rest of the crew. And that's really all I've got. I was thinking, obviously this movie has the iconic opening, the jack-o'-lantern in the opening, Jamie, and you and I have talked about that. And it has that opening credit scene where we're seeing it in the background slowly fading away. And we have the nose of the cut that goes down to the mouth. And we all kind of relate to that in our early years of jack-o'-lantern cunning, to see that we screw up, but we have one pumpkin, so there's nothing we can do about it. But now it's become sort of the icon of, is that the knife that he's kind of portraying in there? But I don't think that's it. I just think that he probably didn't have any pumpkin patches. So.
Oh my God. Why?
Y'all have a good night.
Why?